Good morning and good Sunday. Happy January the 9th. Happy January 9th in 2022. It's a lovely thing to be gathering and to be entering into this new year as a loving community. The snow is fallen all around us, tucking us in under its gentleness, its lightness, and its beauty. Now, I don't know why, but I can feel the warmth of coming summer beneath this blanket of snow. I feel its warmth, and it makes me smile just a little bit, and that's important. Now, it's not a big smile, it's a slight smile, and it's not an intense warmth, it's a mild warmth, but it guides us, and it leads us on the good way forward. It leads us down the path in times that are challenging. Now, a year ago this week, there were serious troubles in Washington, D.C., not far from where I used to live. There was a rally and a run on the Capitol. A grave challenge to democracy and to the Metro Police was delivered by an angry group of Americans who truly believed that the presidential election was invalid. Even though the votes were counted and recounted, sometimes even by hand, and even though the election fraud claims were repeatedly disproved in courts in the months that followed, we have all been suffering from a wound that's been hard to name. We are changing now, we, the Americans, and I believe that we are changing for the better. Now, in his speech from Statuary Hall in the United States Capitol, President Joe Biden reminded us that even in our darkest days, these darkest days can lead to light and hope. He said, let's step up and let's write the next chapter of American history where January 6th marks not the end of democracy, but the beginning of a renaissance of liberty and fair play. He said that even in these times, we can be lifted up. We can be remade and we can be renewed by chaos and challenge and crisis, as long as we cherish community, as long as we preserve our integrity, and as long as we don't lose our sense of humor. Today is Sunday, January the 9th, and the title of this morning's guest reflection is Transformation and Transcendence. It is an interesting subject, it seems to me. We are honored this morning to be joined by my friend and my colleague, Reverend Pratima Dharm. Reverend Dharm has served as U.S. Army chaplain for 12 years. She has offered her gifts of grace and compassion from the perspectives both of Hinduism and of Christianity. She is the mother of 2 daughters, and she is crafting a lovely and a courageous arc through the ministry for herself. She is honest, and she is fierce, and she is fiercely loving. She is gracious and yielding when she chooses to be. She is powerful and uncompromising when she has to be, when she must. She leads the Spirit of Love Cafe, which is an operation that feeds the homeless in Southern California, and she is the community minister who is associated with North Chapel at this time. When I first met Pratima Dharm, we were both serving in the D.C. area. I was on the Maryland side of things, and she was serving in Virginia. Without question, and immediately, I valued and respected her, but I didn't tell her so directly. Instead, I chose to make fun of her, to poke fun at her politeness, like a wisecracking kid brother, the way a wisecracking kid brother would make fun of a wiser sister. One time, Reverend Dharm was seated in the middle of a large open room. We had gathered as a community of ministers for a conference in Harper's Ferry in West Virginia, and one of our group meetings had just concluded. So most of us quickly moved our chairs to the sides of the room in preparation for the next activity. Pratima, however, remained seated. She was not done speaking with several colleagues about the meeting that we just had. She was talking with friends of mine, with colleagues who knew my sense of humor. So as I was leaving the meeting, I think it was lunch or dinner time, I gently nudged Pratima's chair from behind. I nudged her chair with my hip, as if I was trying to get by in a crowded room. Like I said, most of us had cleared our chairs, but not Reverend Pratima. She was still seated. She was still engrossed in rigorous conversation. I nudged her chair, and I'm sure I said something snarky like, "Oh, I'm very sorry. I was just trying to get by. I didn't mean to nudge you, but your chair is in the way." Of course, Reverend Pratima, as gracious as she is, she moved her chair to accommodate this boyish need of mine, even though she was sitting in an otherwise empty room, even though I could have easily walked around her but chose not to. When she realized I was poking fun with her, that I was only making a joke, well, I wish you could have seen the look on her face. She smiled, but it was a mix of playful anger and honest joy. She smiled, and we knew that we were truly and survivably on the ministerial journey together. She in her way and me in mine. We would do our best, each to our gift, to journey well. We would grow and change together. We would teach and learn from each other. And I'd like to think that each of us are the better for it. I know that I am, because Pratima brings the lightness and the beauty. She brings the warmth that rests so easily beneath this blanket of new fallen snow. May we welcome this morning's guest from the Spirit of Love Cafe in Southern California, our friend and colleague, the Reverend Pratima Dharm. To all souls, I say good morning. It is good to be together.
Hello, my name is Laura Foley, and I'm speaking to you today from the very icy woods of South Pomfret, Vermont. I'm reading a poem today I'd like to share with you, which is really about the endeavor of poetry, and it's called Bridge, a poem I wrote. I want to write long lines that spread like water across a page, words to assure me beauty still exists and has meaning. I want my words to bridge unscalable cliffs over human torrents. I want to pause, suspended over a deep crevice, to peer down into rocky depths and see a minnow of wisdom, to see moss growing on stones beside a restless waterfall, I have heard moss possesses intelligence, and that gives me for a green moment faith, green as nature, something beyond the wanting self. Come, join me over the abyss. Feel us swaying in the wind, suspended between sun and river Styx.
Before I sleep, and miles to go. So I have been reflecting every time that Christmas gets over and I get closer towards, start moving towards the New Year's. I reflect, I take time to reflect a lot during this time. And as New Year's Eve came and the New Year's Day came, I was thinking that I don't feel any different. I feel the same old, same old. And I've been watching all these New Year resolutions that people have been posting on Instagram, Facebook, and the social media, other forms of social media. And I'm thinking about all the different lists that people have come up with, which seems to me is all that is missing in their life, all that is perhaps indicative that they need to fix and move towards a fixer-upper kind of. And that is drawing my attention, but actually helping me move more towards the absolute knowledge and certainty that there is nothing wrong with me. Pay attention to that. I'm not coming from a place of ego. Of course, I grew up in India. It was a lot simpler back then. And I think that sort of became the basis for me as I move into a culture, this beautiful, beautiful land and culture, which is a myriad of cultures, so many different kinds of people and cultures and ethnicities that live in the United States. It's an impossible combination, but somehow it works and people come together, and we see that reflected in UU congregations a lot. But what these resolutions make me think is, why are so many people walking around thinking of what is wrong with them and what they can do in the new year differently? Why is that so? And for me, my fallback has always been yoga, as I grew up shaped by yoga in the temples, yoga in the culture, yoga in the speak, in the language, in the food, in the clothing. Yoga is all around in India. It's a part and way of life. And yoga is a way of life for different religions also. You have Christians and you have Jewish people and you have Baha'is and you have Zoroastrians and you have Muslims and you have Hindus and you have Buddhists and Jains and Sikhs, so many different varieties of religious identities. But yet yoga is what surrounds us all the way. And it's not the yoga that I see here in the United States, which is kind of twisting your body into different shapes and forms, and you feel more and more proud as you get deeper into twisting your body even more. Yoga was basically getting up in the morning. There is the, sun salutation. That's the basic that you do. You do yoga after eating food, before eating food. So it's kind of so interwoven into even the way we don't drink water. We wait till the end of the meal to drink water, so it's just very interwoven. However, the crux of yoga is really self-realization. The crux of yoga, as I grew up in India, understanding it and learning it throughout my childhood, throughout my teenage years, throughout my adulthood, and now as I move towards my middle-age years, the basis of yoga is not the exercises that are promoted. It is just almost a tiny percentage of what really yoga is. It's like you're looking at the iceberg, but if you really just look at the tip, you're going to miss the whole thing. Does that make sense? The basic understanding of yoga is remembering who we truly are. So yoga is not a religion. Hinduism is not a religion. It's a way of life that helps us remember and remind us daily of who we are in our purest form, in our purest self, the pure self. And we are to be continuously through these different exercises and different niyamas or disciplines, we are to continuously remind ourselves as to who we are in our truth. So really, the point of it is that we do not need New Year resolutions. You, me, all of us, we are just fine. In our purest essence, we are so perfect and so imperfect, and we are so dark and we are so light, and we are all of these things contained within this pure self, that there is no need to be fixing us. Animals know this. The trees know this. There is a knowing that is present around us. Nature knows this in its knowing. We know it, but we don't remember it at all times. And the science or the art of yoga is to remember who we truly are. So in this new year, I encourage you to really, really connect with your true self as you are, not as you have been told, as you have learned to shape this persona that you want to show to the world. The mask that we wear at all times, right? Like, I'll give you a tiny example. When our nose is running, what do? We try to make sure that nothing is showing on the outside, right? We want to do that. If we have dirt in our ears, we want to clean it, or we put our hair around it so nothing is showing. The tendency is to hide because we'll be judged. So our approach then comes from fear rather than living in our truth and in our pure self. What if my nose is running and I've got white stuff hanging around my nose? It is what it is. You get up in the morning, you got to brush your teeth. Sometimes you don't brush your teeth for 2 hours, so you can smell your own breath. But it is what it is. Yes, there is bacteria, so the better health or the medicinal approach is to clean your teeth. Okay, go ahead and do that. But to put on tons of perfume so that you can hide your breath, there is a problem in that. Because you want to present yourself as a more than. Have you seen a tree do that? Have you seen an animal do that? Have you seen anyone do that except us human beings? Because we have been conditioned from our childhood to be a certain way that is not our true self. And pay attention to this, and I say this with all, as I understand truth to be, that I watch every religion do that. Every culture does that. We have a certain language that we speak to the child. And the child gets conditioned to hide the true self. If I reveal who I am, then I'm going to be labeled. The science of yoga is to constantly remind ourselves and remember who we are. The self, the pure self, is not different from the larger self or the higher self however you want to name it, God. Every religion has a name for it, but that's something that is nameless. That which is within you is nameless. Even as I say self, it doesn't matter. But it is there because we know that it is within us. We know that it is within the other person. And the pure self actually is so tired of pretending. That is why we are like, oh, I just broke my leg, but I'm going to hide it underneath clothes. I don't want people to see it. I don't want people to see my pain. I lost a pet. I lost a parent. I lost a child. I don't want people to see my grief. If you are going to grieve, grieve. Pain is there to make, it does things to us. So in our purest self, when we feel the pain, we are going to cry. We are going to feel the pain. Feel it. Don't stop that. So to get to the pure self, we really have to get past all the conditionings that we have had since we are children. Even what I'm saying right now, you are going to hear through your conditioning. So the invitation is to really cut through all of that and hear what is being spoken in this space as is. Not Reverend Dharm is speaking it, or that it's being spoken in a way that now I have to pay attention. If you're distracted, it is what it is. Be distracted. If you can't pay attention, do not pay attention. The idea about getting to your true self is to not be forced into doing something. And throughout our lives, we are forced with a new name. The child is never asked what name you prefer. We give them the name that we want the child to have. We give them a wardrobe that we want them to have. We do hairstyles on our kids that we want them to have. We send them to schools that we want them to go to. We even tamper with their ability to make friends as they want to make friends. We tamper with their sexuality. We tamper with, every message that we give to the child is to condition that child to become an adult that will never be able to freely experience their true self. Even if you get into like, I'm going to join a yoga studio and I'm going to do all the exercise, I'm going to learn all the exercise, you're not going to get to your true self. Because you're going to start competing with other people. You're going to start feeling I'm not doing enough. I'm not being able to twist my body the way the teacher is doing it. Or I'm not able to hold my breath as I'm expected to do. So where does the attention go is into expectations. Why? Because the basis is not the pure self. The basis is fear. What am I not doing enough? Do you understand that even if you did everything, there's always something that's going to be missing if you go down that path? Because you're going to imagine something else. And that imagination is not from your pure self. It is through a mind. It's through that conditioning. It's through all the misgivings and doubts that you've already shaped in your head. It's right there. I invite you this morning to let go of these conditionings. And believe me, for you to be able to listen to these conditionings, you'll have to sit alone and to go within. And layer by layer, you'll have to take those things that have gone in and found a deep seat in your mind. And you'll have to let it go to be your pure self, or to get to your pure self. Life happens to us, but that happening is not us. Does that make sense? And life will happen to us because we are in our natural bodies. The pure self is not the body. That's the science of yoga. We have to separate that and to remember who we are in our truth. The next thing that I'm going to say to you may land in your ears in many different ways. Each one of you is going to receive it in their own way. And I ask you to not hear it from your ego, not hear it from your conditioned mind, hear it just with your ears. Every religion will tell you what to do to become more spiritual, to find more meaning. Your pure self is not separate from that which religions identify as God. And when I say I am the same as God, I'm not coming from a place of ego. Rumi said that and got into trouble because that was blasphemy. Now people read him and they're like, oh my God, Rumi said this. But when he was singing and dancing, the dervish, going into trances, transcendence, right? He was already transformed because he was already in touch with his true and pure self. And many like him have been dancing the crazy dance because they know themselves. And they refuse to listen to all that society has to say, all that different religions have to say it in different ways, the same thing. Do it this way, and then you will go to heaven. Do it this way, and then you're going to have good karma. It's not about that. Life is still going to happen to you. You don't know when you get out of this chat room, this Zoom space, what awaits you. Life is going to happen to me, to you, to anyone. No matter what you do, it's the human, natural, plant, animal, natural way and order of things. It is going to happen. But imagine how much stress we put ourselves through. If I do this, then this will not happen. Why? Because we were told that. So why not live into your pure self? And if your pure self doesn't want to comb your hair, doesn't want to, whatever, present yourself in a suit and tie or whatever that is to you, take that leap. Because don't think you're going to be liked more in a suit. Don't think you're going to be liked more or loved more because your hair is done a certain way, or you look a certain way, or your house is in a certain way. Love comes from that pure self. When you are able to see your pure self, you will experience love. There is only love there, the pure self, beyond all this conditioning. I want to keep going on. There is so much more to this. And in 20 minutes, I cannot tell you everything. But I try to share things so that we can begin the process of undoing the doings that have happened to us. And a lot of it is false. There's always an agenda. Pure self can see through the agenda. When you speak to me and you speak from a place of love, my pure self can see that. But if you are full of bull, myself can see it too. So can you. So the ultimate reality that yogic science talks about, or philosophy talks about, the Brahman, the ultimate reality, is present in our physical bodies, in our emotional bodies, in our spiritual bodies, and bodies we haven't discovered. It's naturally present. You don't have to do anything. So number one thing, don't listen to anybody. Go within and listen to yourself. And for that, you have to start the daily practice of letting go of all the bull you were told since you were born. Because our parents also were told the same bull. And their parents were told the same bull. And they kept passing it down as if like, you know, that's their duty, eternal duty to pass it down. And so church has been happening all over the world in a way that is so not right and just for a pure self. I want all of you to now take a moment, just a moment. Close your eyes. Close your eyes right now. And see yourself as who you are, past all the stuff. Don't go into your mind space. There's going to be a lot of chatter. Go past your heart space, your heart chakra. Go past your mind. You are going to encounter your pure self. Listen to that pure self. Pay attention. That's your guide. That's your teacher. That's your God. Whatever you want to name it, doesn't matter. What matters is that you remember who you are. And trust me, as you practice this more and more, and stay with it, close your eyes, because that's the only way you are going to continue into that deep, deep practice of self-awareness, self-realization, pure self-practice. Okay, there you go. There's a new name for it, but it doesn't matter. Let's stop naming things. There's a lot of information out there. And let's start being in that self. That'll allow us to not present ourselves more than we are or less than we are. Present God as more than he is, or he, it, she, whatever you want to name it. present religion, present, oh, I bake the best apple pie. Where does it come from? Your place of ego. Let people eat it and experience it. Why do you have to say so much? When we approach life from our pure self, it is going to be different. We are going to cut through all the bull. The greatest injustice in human history has been the injustice towards self, that we cannot express and be who we truly are in our full truth. That is the greatest injustice. We hide who we are, and then we want everybody else to hide who they are. And if people reveal themselves, then we have a problem. The problem starts with us, and the solution starts with us. Let us live in our truth. This morning, going forward, it's going to need a lot of guts, but I know you have it. Do it. Blessed be Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.